brown, and purple red. I somehow messed this up. What color should I do for the summer? I should probably slow down on dyeing my hair. Oh, babe, can you get me my thing for that problem child thingy that I gotta do every day? The little shot thingy. The drink of the health stuff. Have you guys tried Problem Child? You guys could turn the thing back on. This isn't me muted, it's them.
What? Walked into the house, proceeded forward, saw a patient on the floor to the right, proceeded to the patient
Brown.
to start an assessment and evaluation.
The 30.
And then Captain Keller had already come in.
One.
I'm pretty confident, yes, he would have been quicker getting off the truck and inside.
And so you did your assessment, and then what?
My assessment revealed that he was unresponsive, no pulse, no breathing, so I would have started CPR, started chest
Hi,
compressions.
Tina, how are you?
Did you do that with his shirt on?
I would have lifted that out of the way so I could find the proper landmarks.
You and me
So
both.
you had said that you saw that there was
Me too.
2 gunshot wounds, is that correct?
Yes.
And then you saw that through the shirt? Or how did you assess that when you first entered? That's my question.
Okay, have fun. We miss
once
you
I
too. Be
When doing
safe.
CPR, I can see 2 bullet holes in the shirt. I can see that on the chest and on the abdomen. I can see the wounds as I'm looking at the chest and doing chest compressions.
Okay. And then he had on what color shirt?
Parker, I am so sorry. I was working on downloading the live from TikTok for I could put it on the YouTube. Then I fell asleep while I was doing it 1 in the morning, and I totally forgot to check my email. I haven't even checked it. I am so sorry. I will check it today.
I wouldn't have recalled other than, I guess, the video yesterday. I think it was a dark colored shirt I think we saw on the screen.
And
But
so
have fun today.
you had talked yesterday about the blood being more blood on chest, not pooled around your knees, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
And
Trigger
so
warning.
with the dark shirt, was it hard to see the blood? I'm kind of trying to see what you saw when you entered.
I remember seeing blood on the chest. It wasn't, I remember not seeing blood on the abdomen.
And there were holes in the shirt, 2 holes in the front side?
I would, best my call, yes.
Okay. And when did you cut off the shirt? And how does that procedure work?
I continued doing CPR, chest compressions. One of my other colleagues would have cut that off. And knowing that the shirt maybe is potentially evidence, that's why I said to her, don't cut through where the holes are. So she could have cut down the side instead of on the top of the body.
And do you use like a special scissors or something for that?
Yeah, we have some trauma shears in our equipment.
Okay. And who was that? Was that Phelps or?
I believe that was firefighter Kaczynski.
Okay. Kaczynski, that's one I didn't have. So who all was sitting there with you that was on scene at that time?
Firefighter Fife would have been there. Firefighter Kaczynski, the 3 of us, kind of like we saw in the video or like the picture yesterday. All 3 of us around the patient, while Captain Keller was standing back a little bit, like you saw in the picture.
Okay. You said that you had been a CPR instructor for 12 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And was that for the last 12 years or 12 years ago?
Approximate dates 2004 to 2016, let's say.
Okay. And so have you taught people who have never done CPR before?
Have I taught those individuals? Yes,
Right, and not just like people renewing their certification, but both.
correct.
Okay.
I thought you were
How many
saying
people would you
renewing
say that you've taught that
car
have never
insurance.
done CPR before?
Never done CPR, and it's probably in the hundreds over that long of doing that.
So you'd be familiar with how a first timer would react.
Yeah, you try to forewarn them what to expect.
Okay. So these first timers, they have to be taught the appropriate place to place their hands. Would that be fair?
That is part of the course, yes.
And so do you show them, or do you just tell them in class where to put their hands?
It's a video-based system through American Heart. There's a curriculum that we would have been following.
Okay. So if you could only tell them, like over the phone, that might be difficult for them to know the correct placement of their hands if they've never done it before.
I guess it depends on the instructions that the dispatcher gave. Ultimately, if I was telling somebody over the phone, you want to put your hands on their chest, on the lower part of the chest. It's that kind of simple, so to speak.
Okay. But without the video, if you were teaching a class and you didn't have the video, it might be difficult, right? For a bunch of first timers?
Objection, speculation.
Overruled.
I kind of want to take this
Did we
off
answer? Oh, okay. Sorry.
just to see.
Can you repeat the question then?
Yeah, so it might be difficult. If you didn't have the video, it might be difficult, you know, for a bunch of first timers to know exactly what to do if you just had to tell them middle of the
Let's do
chest, lower chest.
I mean, you could obviously show on a person.
No, I'll wait.
Showing yourself.
If you couldn't show them and you could only tell them, could it be difficult?
I suppose it's possible depending on the person.
Okay, that's fair.
Thank you, dear.
So do you think that your CPR class would be fairly successful if you had no visuals?
Objection, relevance, speculation.
Yeah. Next question.
I got it, Your Honor. So if a person had never done it before and was
Excuse me? I got it, Your Honor. That's twice you're gonna let her snark and throw a tantrum. She's gonna get carried away here.
just told how
I
to
can't
do
believe
it,
that.
is it possible that they might not be acquainted with where to put their hands?
It's possible.
And it would also be possible that they might not do it properly.
That could be possible too.
And right now, when you're teaching CPR, and I didn't say you are teaching right now, but
How are you?
if you're teaching a class, are they just doing percussions now? There's no breathing in the mouth, is that correct?
It's going to depend on the level of the class. As far as the lay rescuer, people that have never done it before, that just want to have the training. It's evolved and we're teaching compression only. That is a form of CPR now also, just doing chest compressions.
And how long do you teach to do that for? How long of a period before you take a rest or?
Well, it varies depending on if the patient is an adult or a child. There are different
doing well,
guidelines that
thank
American
you.
Heart offers. So in those courses, they're getting to learn information for adults and children and infants also.
Right, Kathy, 100%.
Correct, right. So for an adult, how long, like 30, 100, 150? It's been a while, so just wondering.
With an adult, they're also taught they need to call for help right away also. So that's a factor. Are they alone? Is somebody else able to call? Can they call, put the phone on speaker, start, while I'm talking to 911? And then they would just keep going until help arrives.
So there's no timing, like you take a 10-second break, you just do compressions?
Not for that type of level of CPR, there wasn't.
Okay. So it's helpful if you had someone there that you could like take turns, like I do 100 and then you do 100, because it's kind of exhausting, right?
Objection, compound question, relevance.
I'll sustain it as to compound question. You can re-ask the question ask it in a different way. Go ahead.
So
It depends who you're asking. For Lori, I think it's all
How
about
many-
tension.
how long did you administer the CPR before you did the flip over? How long do you think that was?
Before we rolled him to look at the back, is that what you're?
Correct. Yes, that's correct.
I would estimate maybe up to a minute.
Okay. And then were you counting compressions? Is that what you were doing during that time, or do you not count? You just do it for a certain amount of time?
I don't recall if I was counting. I mean, I was doing the chest compressions while waiting for the rest of the team to arrive and for us to continue assessing, see if we're going to continue to work the patient and utilize more equipment.
And there were 3 of you there.
4 total, but 3 by the patient.
Okay. And then you could take turns, right? Like trade off if you needed to.
If we needed to, yes.
So that'd be a lot easier than when you're just there by yourself. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know
Yes,
how
yes.
long,
That's why you'll hear us call Lori
how long
Laren.
after the rolling over did you started doing compressions again? Is that correct?
Yes.
That's what I had.
Yes, I believe so.
And how long did you do that for?
I would,
Oh, I do
I would
too.
estimate maybe upwards of another minute
So maybe 2 minutes total?
during that sequence, yes.
And was there another sequence?
At some point, we would have stopped doing chest compressions so we could evaluate the heart rhythm. That's on the heart monitor.
With the heart monitor?
You can't be doing compressions to evaluate that.
Okay. And then you didn't continue compressions after the heart monitor at all?
I held that
From what I
high
recall,
Halsey.
I resumed again.
It just started.
Brief discussion as far as what direction we were going to go.
And what were the results of the heart monitor?
There was no electrical activity.
And how long
And I'll give you a short. She's already snapped at his honor once.
was the heart monitor applied compared to when you started the first compressions?
I'm not sure if I understand the question. Maybe you can reword it or.
Sure. How far into your treatment, I should say, did you guys stop and do the heart monitor?
I would estimate that the monitor probably was on within 2 minutes of making patient contact.
But Lori, you guys didn't call 911 for 47 minutes after the pew-pewing. That has a lot to do with him not being able to be brought back.
Okay. And how long does that take?
In my
To
opinion.
do what? To put it on?
Well, yeah, to put it on, get a reading, and decide what you're going to do next.
It could take, you got to turn it on, open up a compartment to get the pads out of that compartment. You've got to open that packaging to be able to apply it to the patient's chest area. If the chest is wet, which there's some blood, you need to dry that so it's going to adhere more properly, read more properly. So you could be looking at 30 seconds to a minute possibly of working through that.
Okay. And did you have to do that in this case, remove blood to stick them on?
I would assume so, but I was doing chest compressions, so that would have been one of the other 2 firefighters kind of working through that.
Okay.
Trigger warning, guys. Yeah, now she's concerned about the quality of. Not the fact that there wasn't one for
So
over
I
47
understand
minutes.
correctly. you said when you rolled him
Thank you.
over, did you cut the shirt in the back also to see the exit wounds? Is that?
No, we only had to cut the shirt one time. That was when he was still laying on his back. You cut it down the side and that opens it up to where then you can remove it from the body, pull it off.
So you did pull it off completely at some point?
More than like,
Someone tell me what happened to Lazy to Look. I would tell you if I knew what your sentence just said. Try
Yeah, I
again.
would say yes. That's typically what we would do.
Okay. But you don't remember if you did that in this case?
I know that I didn't do that because I was doing chest compressions. So I would assume one of my colleagues did that completely. That's typically what we do.
This is the state of Arizona versus Lori Daybell, otherwise known as Doomsday Mom, on her second trial, day 2.
Okay. And so you're back to doing
Smart
the
Jules.
compressions for the third time,
I
and
like
then you stopped that at some point. Was there another procedure after that?
No, at that point in time is when we would have called the patient.
And who announces that?
Ultimately, I remember our captain, since he's in charge of the crew, would be considered the lead medic. He has the most experience. He's also charting the call, kind of running it, kind of made that final decision.
And that would
We are using East Idaho.
be Captain Keller. I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yes, correct.
And then he did call it at, do you know what time?
It would have, I don't have it memorized, no, it would have been like in the charting that he was doing.
And who documents that?
He would have
He
documented
would have
that.
done it?
Thank you for the follow.
In preparation for your testimony here today, did you review the 911 call at all?
Not in preparation for today. Not the actual audio, no.
No.
No, not today, not for this.
What did you review for today?
I was able to look at the incident times were dispatched by Phoenix Fire Department. I was able to look at the paper documentation. I was able.
No, this is Lori's second trial. During Lori's first trial, she was also known as Lori Vallow. She was tried and convicted of unaliving her 2 children and her current husband's wife. This is her second trial where she is accused of conspiring to commit unaliving. And that was on her 4th husband, Charles Daybell. Charles Vallow. See, now I'm confused myself. So this is about Charles Vallow. Then she has one more trial after this one for conspiring to commit her niece's husband's unaliving. She's got a lot going on. She's also known as Doomsday Mom.
From Idaho. I was able to see my testimony with Chandler PD when they came to the fire station a couple of weeks after this incident.
Ow.
And what paper documentation did you actually take a look at?
It would have been the chart that Captain Keller documented.
And what does that chart consist of?
There would be scene times, date, time, address, patient information, name, address, maybe medical history, things that we.
2.5 hours. It works.
A narrative of what we discovered, what we've done, treatments that we've done, the heart rhythm from the monitor gets attached to it.
So that would all be in Captain Keller's report?
Correct.
And you did take a look at that in preparation for today?
Yes.
And did you write a report regarding this incident?
Good morning, Renee.
No.
How are you?
You don't have to document anything?
Just one person documents the call.
So for all of the people that were there from fire?
Correct.
Okay. So that's the total report, is
Hold
you
on.
just give your input to him and he puts it into the report?
Correct.
And that's the same for the other 2 firefighters that were along with you?
That's correct.
Okay. So they don't have their own individual reports as well?
No.
Okay. And
I'm not going to keep the no filter thing on.
what time were you dismissed from the scene?
We probably
welcome.
only remained an additional 5 to 10 minutes. The chart would have that time. I don't necessarily have it by memory.
So how long were you at the scene total? Like,
If I had to estimate without looking at it, I would say approximately 20, 25 minutes.
okay. And then you were like the driver of the truck, right? Was that your responsibility? So you
Correct.
drove in and then did you drive out as well?
Correct.
Okay. So if you guys arrived around 8:41 or something like that, then you left around 25 minutes later? Would that be accurate?
I
Thank you
guess
for
when
the
I was giving
follow.
that estimate of like the 2025, I was even including like our dispatch time from the time we're dispatched driving to the scene. So if you're wanting to know actual on scene time, it might be closer. Instead of the 20 to 25, it might be more of a closer to 20 solid.
Thank
Like,
you.
20 minutes?
yeah,
Okay. And is that typical for a call?
it can vary depending on the calls.
Okay. So what other things did you do in that 20 minutes besides administer to the patient?
So I'm including in that time while we're staged around the corner, waiting for PD to arrive, then for PD to clear the scene, for us to drive to the scene.
Thank you, Redbird.
There's the time with the patient, and then there's going to be the cleanup afterwards. Removing our equipment, going outside. Maybe the equipment needs to be cleaned,
Well, yeah,
restocked,
yeah.
ready for another call. So when we drive away, we're ready to respond to another emergency and then drive.
Yes. She's also made references to some parts of it being Tylee's as well as a little bit her own brothers who pulled the trigger.
Away.
Okay. So when you were done with the patient and you were going through that procedure of cleaning, were you in the house or did you exit the house?
We'll remove all of our stuff and we'll go outside, typically to the front bumper
I
of the
agree.
fire truck.
Kathy, I agree.
And then what do you do?
We have cleaning chemicals on the truck that we could get out to, clean our equipment up to reuse it. We've got a cabinet with restock to be able to restock anything that might need to be. So we'll take care of those things to be ready to respond to another call.
Okay. And while you were out front, did you see Alex on the curb?
I did see somebody on the curb,
Thank you, Wendy.
or I don't remember if he was on the curb or standing, but I remember seeing somebody with an officer or officers. I don't recall how many people might have been together.
Okay. And did you converse with those officers at all during that time?
I don't believe so. I don't really remember conversing with any officers on scene. That would have been more Captain Keller, charting, documenting, kind of getting information from them. He would be able to answer that question.
Okay. So did you, was anybody in firefighting on your team, the four of you that were there, was anyone asked to take a look at Alex?
We were not.
Let's see. Have you spoken to the media about this case?
Thank you,
I
Allison.
object. Relevance.
Good idea on
What's
the
relevance?
objection.
What is the relevance, Your Honor?
Yeah.
Just to know how many times he's given testimony?
Your Honor,
No.
I'm going
I'm gonna
to, maybe we can
hold on.
sidebar.
Yeah, I don't want to. All right, let's go on sidebar.
Very good idea. How would his relevancy and testimony have anything to do with him speaking to the media? It doesn't. This is just like her thing where she's trying to get Nate Eaton to be on the witness list to be called, or not on the witness list, but on the subpoena list. But the fact that she already snapped at His Honor once, I'm surprised he let that go without making any remarks. He says, go on and ask next question. I got it, Your Honor. Like, what? And then to find out that it was actually her, because we can't see when she's sitting down. If we could see anything, it's the back of her head. So the noise we were hearing when the prosecution was given their opening statement, and we heard that was her notebook. She slammed it down on the desk. Now I'm putting on the Medicube Age Art Glow Serum. My main products are WNP, Medicube, and Maylee's. You know what? I wonder if they used it all yesterday, but they sure as hell better have that at the ready today, because she is not behaving. But the fact that they haven't called her out on it, though, gives her more reason to not behave again. She's like enabling. Yeah, she did. She was asking a question and it was objected to. And the judge said, next question. And she said, I've got it, Your Honor. Really snarky. That attitude was just over the top. So now they're at sidebar because she asked if he talked to the media. She has snapped a little bit, like I was just saying at His Honor, but he didn't call her on it. So it depends, I guess, what your take could be. What I think is funny is she thinks she's going to save herself. No, she thinks that Jesus is going to save her and Chad, that they're both going to be exonerated and walk out of here with their 144,000 followers and on to the new world and the new life and the new world order of God knows what, who, when, where, why, how. And guess what? Daryl Brooks, as of 2 days ago, or is it 3 days ago now, is representing himself in his appeal. He just let go his lawyer. He is representing himself on an appeal for multiple life sentences. So if you guys thought Mr. Brooks was the last we were going to hear of him, sadly, I'm here to tell you that is not the case. We got our Waukesha Strong. We got good old Judge and Daryl Brooks stickers down there below too. We got lots of good stickers. I still haven't made your guys' squirrel sticker yet. I will though. We should do this. Okay, how can I turn that on? I just turned on the subweb, so if you guys are interested in subscribing, you can click right above my head here. We have different prices, different stickers, different features. The stickers, you just put them all in here. See? We got our Lisk stickers. We got our Chad Dorman stickers. We got our Waukesha Strong, Madeline Soto, Diddy, Micah stickers. We got lots of stickers. We got our Binksy stickers, our Nala and Mila stickers. It is totally heartbreaking. I agree with you 100%. And the fact that she even gets to talk about them and their being there at that time, that infuriated me yesterday. It utterly and totally infuriated me. Next to the chat, when you type in, there's a little star. That's how you can use your subscriber stickers. Is a star. Actually, Kathy, we had Taylor's Business that was just in court the other day as well. She was in there because she had attacked her previous lawyer physically in court. And guess what? She did it again. That's right. Okay, enjoy your nap. Yep. I did a video of it. It's on my page. But yeah, she did. I couldn't believe it.
Okay, just a few
Thank
more
you for the
questions.
follow, Queen Bee. Thank you for the follow, Shelby. And guys, if you're new here, drop a follow to me on this side because that's just my backup. It doesn't always come live when I do. Yep. All of that happened just recently. I believe it was Friday or Saturday. I couldn't believe it. Thank you for extending your subscription,
Carter,
Renee. Appreciate you.
Is it
glad you're here.
possible that if there was a wound to the chest, that doing compressions on that could cause other damage?
I suppose it's possible, but ultimately it doesn't matter if the heart isn't beating.
Hi, Texas girl. How
What you
are
got to
you?
do is the appropriate treatment.
So would a common person who doesn't know how to do CPR maybe hesitate about pushing on a bullet wound?
Objection.
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
But you wouldn't.
Can you repeat the question?
You wouldn't hesitate to push on the bullet wound if the heart was stopped?
No, I wouldn't.
And you would have to assess if the heart was stopped in order to do that?
Probably pretty good day.
Yes, you would check a pulse like we did. We would, use our equipment like we did.
Okay. So the two wounds that you saw when you first got there, one was in the chest and one was where?
In the abdomen.
Thank you for the follow, CW.
On the right side or the left side?
I would be speculating as to how the specific spot or area without actually maybe seeing documentation.
He just invited the prosecutor to object to speculation again, and she didn't. Thank
Okay.
you. That's so cute. Thank you.
And can you tell me about the...
Just
I
a couple
think there's
minutes
a word for
behind
it, but
you.
I'm sorry, I can't remember what it was. The crunch.
Actually, we're on a 30-minute delay per court. Everything is delayed that comes out of that courtroom, so that way they can tell them to stop if they don't want them to show anything. That's by the courtroom. It's one camera and it's their rules.
When doing the chest compressions,
Correct.
I don't know if there was necessarily a certain word that I used, but you feel the sternum crack. I compare it to, like I said before, cracking your knuckles.
And how much pressure would you have to apply to get the crack?
That could vary, like depending on who you're doing CPR on.
Like on an adult male?
I mean, it could still vary depending on, the strength of the person doing CPR also. It could vary depending on the size of that adult male also. So I've never seen like any science that might say you got to deliver this much pounds of force or anything.
Right,
So-
like 400 pounds of pressure or something?
Yeah, I don't know. Right.
Okay.
She's trying to show that to what the first witness had spoken on, saying that there would have been blood that would coming out of doing the compressions. She's trying to discredit him, in my personal opinion. And she's also trying to show why it would have been acceptable for her brother, who again waited 47 minutes to call 911, did not do chest compressions.
You're just
So
going to push
there is-
hard.
Hold on,
Oh, sorry.
can't have you talk over one another, so, he's finished
I know,
his
Kate.
answer. Go ahead and answer the
Thank you,
next question.
Catnip.
So there's no determined amount of pressure, correct?
Just hard and fast. When it comes to people doing CPR, for us, we're working as a team. You know, we have equipment that can tell us if we're pushing hard enough. For a person without that equipment, just hard and fast.
Thank you,
Okay,
Catnip.
that's fair. And then they don't always get the crack, right? It's not always going to happen.
If they're doing it forcefully enough, they would.
So if they didn't do it forcefully enough, it wouldn't.
That is possible, yes.
But then when you come in, the professionals, and you apply the correct amount of force, then you would hear the crack.
Yes,
And is that possible that that happened in this case?
it is possible.
Okay, no more questions.
All right,
Okay.
redirect.
Again, I just took the frownies off, you guys, and they actually do work. I don't know how long it's going to last for, but it does work. Thank you so much, guys.
Does 911 have to regularly instruct people on how to perform CPR?
No.
I don't know if I can answer that since I don't, do that since I'm not 911.
Have you regularly heard while listening to the radio 911 instructing people on how to do CPR?
We have had PTI information when we're responding to a call that will tell us that they are either performing CPR or being instructed to.
So you've seen in the past that 911 is prepared to handle individuals who may not know how to perform CPR.
Yes,
And that's to help try to keep the patient's blood moving while you're en route.
correct.
You were asked a lot about trading off and other people doing compressions. At this scene with this patient, Charles Vallow, did you ever trade off and have someone else do the CPR compressions?
No,
You were the only one doing the CPR compressions.
yes,
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Were you doing CPR while another paramedic or EMT was getting the heart monitor ready?
yes,
So this timeline of however long it took them is in conjunction with you still performing CPR.
yes,
We talked about Charles's shirt being cut. If photographs from the scene show his shirt still around his neck, would that indicate that it wasn't removed from him?
after the cutting.
Yeah, so if police, let me ask you this. When you guys are done and he's called deceased, do you put his clothing back on or modify him in any way?
No, we would just take our equipment that's necessary to take.
So if his shirt was still around his neck, then that's how it would have been left.
Correct.
You were asked about whether or not you should perform CPR on a person who has a gunshot wound. Is there any reason why a person with a gunshot wound would not need to have blood circulating through their body to bring oxygen versus some other type of injury?
No,
Is the whole point of CPR to make sure that blood is circulating to get oxygen to their brain?
yes,
so that they don't go brain dead?
Yes.
Trigger warning.
And you said that ultimately
Thank
it
you,
wouldn't
Wendy.
matter if you cause more injuries, because if they're brain dead, who cares, right?
Correct.
Maybe put it a little differently than that.
In your assessment, did you feel that no one had performed CPR on Charles Valla before you arrived?
I had felt
Thank you,
that.
Wendy.
I do know in my testimony to Chandler PD, I had stated that, or it's probably in my testimony that it was not efficient or something to those lines. But
I believe what she meant to say was because if they're not getting oxygen circulating to their brain, the brain's no longer going to function. Not who cares. She's going to be kicking herself for that later. Yeah, I did see Cassie's willing to testify. Yep.
felt like no, it
Hi,
had
Miss
not.
Nikki. How are you?
Okay, you felt like no, it had not been done.
Correct.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
Thank you. Thank
All right,
you.
I see at least one juror question. We'll go on a sidebar. Please, if you're a juror and you have any additional questions, pass down your question to the basket.
Now, just so you guys know what's happening here in the state of Arizona, when you're on the jury, you have a opportunity to write down your questions between each witness. That is what they just did, and they put a question in the box. It's been passed to them, or they pass it to the judge, and they put on headphones to discuss it amongst themselves. With Lori being her own lawyer, she can't very well sidebar like that way. No. Arya? Multitasking 101. Don't take my class for it. I fail. Yeah, she could have really used a better choice of words. I just... Very poor choice of words. I'm wondering if the pressure's starting to get to her. This is the only crack we've seen in her armor. And you have to admit, she's very well equipped. I only got fur babies, so maybe that's why. Which Binksy went to his vet appointment this morning. That happened. That witness went very quickly. They started on it last night, though. Keep that in mind. Aw, thank you. Binksy's at that age. He has an appointment to get a snip. He had to get a pre-snip checkup and get some of his shots. He's on coffee mugs now. Ted Keller next.
So you're going to come on up here.
I got notified on Friday that he's now on coffee mugs. My Binksy's a model. He does the little turns on the kitty walk. No, she says her husband. She still calls him her husband, even though her current husband is Chad. Charles was her husband.
All right, you're going to come up this ramp
Until she
up here
allegedly
and have
conspired to unalive him. That's why we're here today. And she still has one more trial after this one's done. She's like the Black Widow.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Sir, would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Kent Keller.
Hi,
I'm a recently retired captain with Chandler Fire Department.
When did you retire?
April of 2022.
And
Thank you, sir.
how long did you work with the Chandler Fire Department?
32 years.
While you were there in, let's talk about 2019, what were your duties? What was your rank?
My rank was captain. I was an engine captain, so a company officer. I was in charge of a 4-person crew. We basically respond for calls to service and the different functions of it.
Did those calls for service include medical calls?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any training in the area of, I guess, medical treatment yourself?
Yes, I'm a paramedic. Went to paramedic school in 1991.
And can you tell us, is there or was there ongoing type of continuing training to be a paramedic?
Yes, yes, ma'am. There is continuing education throughout the year. You have to have a certain number of hours in each subject, and as well as updates as far as pharmacology or different treatment modalities. So yes, there is constant change.
And the difference between a paramedic and an EMT?
Well, an EMT is EMT-B, EMT basic. A paramedic is an EMT paramedic. So the biggest difference would be invasive treatments. So you're trained with more ability to provide care, cardiology and pharmacology.
When fire gets a call of a person who is shot, what is sort of the normal response? What does fire do when they are coming to a scene and they know a person has been shot?
Well, what they normally would do is you get the dispatch, you look on a map, you route yourself in, and then you would determine a safe place to stage while the scene is secured by PD.
And then how do you learn that the scene is secure?
In Chandler, anyway, we have interagency communication. So you're on the radio both with Phoenix Dispatch and Chandler PD, direct car to car or to Chandler PD Dispatch.
So you're actually then told by Chandler Police that it's secure and you can come in?
Yes, ma'am. They will give you a scene safe or code 4 and hot dog.
When you arrive on scene as the captain, what is your role when you get there?
My role is scene safety, primary scene safety. That's rule number 1 in everything that we do. And in other words, as I arrive on scene, I'm going to make sure with PD that there are no more threats for our crew and get direction to where we need to do treatment.
When you have this team of 4, how do you determine who does what?
Well, I mean, that's individual crew training, and some crews might have specific jobs. Ours is more of a fill and flow. As you come to, I guess I should say, one person is charting, one person is going to be the paramedic in charge of the call. So he's running the call. His job is bigger picture. And then that'll leave 3 people for hands-on treatment until a 2-person rescue would arrive, an ambulance would arrive to help, if that were the case.
Does fire ever respond to a scene and then advise that a person is deceased?
Certainly.
And if fire responds, determines a person is deceased, and this is potentially a crime scene, what does fire do at that point?
Well, fire then would pick up their gear and leave without disturbing that scene as much as possible. I mean, we have gear. We spread out our gear when we get to a patient. You know, we have monitors and drug boxes and trauma treatment boxes. So as soon as it's determined that the patient is not viable, then you would pick up that gear and leave the scene. What you don't want to do is interfere with any investigation going forward. And
even when you are working on a person, are you trying to limit impacting the scene itself to the best of your ability?
Yes, our job would be to determine if treatment is necessary and then do that treatment regardless. But yes, what I should do, what the captain or whoever that paramedic should do with that has the larger picture would be to try and minimize any disturbing of the scene.
But obviously, taking care of the patient is the primary focus, even if that causes the scene to be disturbed.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you working on July 11th of 2019 around 8:30 in the morning?
Yes.
Do you recall responding to a shooting at 5531 South Four Peaks in Chandler?
Yes.
When you responded or first went to the scene, did you guys stage like we've discussed?
Yes, ma'am.
And you advise that you're being provided information from two different sources?
Yes, our primary source is Phoenix Dispatch. But yes, you are able to monitor Chandler PD as well.
Is Phoenix Dispatch 911?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you're getting what's coming in from 911. Are they relaying information to you?
Yes.
Are things like whether or not the patient is receiving CPR something that is very relevant to you?
Yes.
In this case, did you receive any information regarding that?
Yes. We were told that CPR instruction had been given and CPR was in progress.
Does 911, in your experience in over 30 years, are they able to provide instruction for lay people who may not know how to do 911 or not know how to do CPR compressions?
Yes, they are actually certified to do that. They train and are certified to give that instruction over the phone. So
even though it's only verbal, they've been trained to how to present that to a person over the phone.
Yes.
So you are advised that CPR instructions have been given and that CPR is that compressions are being given? Yes.
Been a little while, but yes, I believe that I was told. I do know that instruction. I do remember specifically hearing that CPR in progress. I believe I remember.
I was thinking that too. Thank you for the
But
follow,
definitely
Lindsay.
the CPR instructions had been given.
Does knowing that a person has been receiving CPR impact the way you view a patient when you enter a scene?
Yes.
The mask we have on now is the Medicube brightening mask. That's the one I pinned below.
How?
Well, because it would make the patient more viable. If adequate CPR were given prior to our arrival, then you would hope that good CPR was given and that oxygenated blood was being pushed around the body, which would mean that make the patient more viable at that point.
When you go to a scene where you believe CPR is given, such as this one, was that one of the things, I guess, that was part of your decision-making as you are assessing this patient?
Yes.
Can you talk to us about when you entered this residence, what do you recall?
When I entered the residence, I recall thinking that the house seemed empty, like it was either being moved into or moved out of. So there was no furniture or anything. We had a clear path to where the patient was. And I remember thinking that there's very little in this room other than the patient.
Did you notice at any point some items around the patient?
The only thing I remember being around the patient was a baseball bat and a ball cap.
And do you recall at this point where those items were in relation to him?
Yes, I believe the baseball bat would have been on the patient's right and the ball cap above him somewhere in the
Is
room.
he?
I think the baseball bat was against the wall on his right.
Do you recall ever seeing a bullet near the victim?
Once we started assessing, I did see a bullet, a spent round on the floor.
So that's sort of a little bit into you're in the
Yes, ma'am.
scene.
Yes.
Wasn't something you initially recognized.
No.
While you're in there, was there any officers in the room with you or inside the house?
There was at least one officer still clearing the house, I believe, or at least going through the house. I only recall for sure one officer being interior.
In my opinion, that would be Alex. Even if it wasn't Alex, Lori's not going to admit it now. And Alex is no longer on this earth to verify or deny that.
Can you describe for us how the patient, how Charles was laying when you first observed him?
Yes, ma'am. He was laying supine. He was laying on his back. As we entered, his head was towards us, so geographically, I think north.
Oh, okay. My bad.
So that's how he was laying supine.
Do you recall anything about his arms or hands where they were?
I don't. To his sides, I don't recall, honestly.
Did you observe any injuries to Charles, this patient?
Yes, he had evidently a gunshot wound to his center chest.
If you think about it, remember, Lori left. She walked out of that front door right after the trigger was pulled. If she was that concerned about CPR being done sooner, she should have not opened the door and gone outside, and she should have provided it, in my opinion.
Hole in the shirt and a small amount of blood.
Did you recall or notice anything about where the blood was pooling from that shot to the chest?
At that time, I did not, because we have to expose the patient, and
Thank you for the follow.
so he's a big guy. So he had a small amount of blood above his sternum.
I'm showing you Exhibit 3 that's previously been admitted.
Don't show it.
Does that look like,
It adjusts a little bit, but
Okay.
you can attempt.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
are you able to see that there?
Yes.
Kind of. Does this look like the patient that you were working on?
Yes.
And in this, do you see the blood pooling in Exhibit 3 there?
Yes.
Is that sort of what you were talking about?
Yes. Here in around the collarbone. So there's a divot here. That
Would you describe this patient as a fit man?
he seemed to be. Yes.
When you saw that pooling like that, did that stand out to you or seem at all impactful in your decision of whether or not CPR had been given prior to your arrival?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because had adequate CPR been given there, I would have expected more blood, possibly on there, and perhaps a pool of blood under him. I didn't see any blood under him. I mean, when we first got there.
So when you guys first arrived, let's go back to sort of describing the scene. You said that you didn't notice any blood pooling under him.
I did not.
And is that something that you guys are cognizant of since you're going to have to get down and around him?
Yes, but we're more cognizant of it because it would indicate an exit wound. And obviously, the more blood there is, the more the heart was beating or CPR was
agree.
being done.
If you guys are new here, drop me a follow. This side over here, that's just my backup. It doesn't always come live with me, so make sure you're getting me here. Michelle's Criminal Musings. We have a subathon right now, too,
The lack of
guys.
spreading on him is one indication that kind of made you question if CPR had been given?
Yes, ma'am.
And the lack of pooling of blood underneath him was another sort of
Yes.
flag to you that maybe CPR
Hi,
had not been
Tina,
given.
how are you?
And no one was doing CPR when we got there.
Mm-hmm.
Would have been the primary indicator to me. And I say that because if CPR were in progress by PD, if there were an officer there doing CPR, then they would have continued to do CPR until we relieved them.
If a person is shot and deceased and you start giving them compressions, can you still push blood out of those wounds?
Yes, ma'am.
I love the TikTok shop,
Now,
too.
at some point when
It's great.
fire arrives and they are assessing a patient, do they, I'm going to put up Exhibit 4 here.
You know, it'd be really interesting if they had some way to verify what time. If someone asked her what time she had dropped JJ off at school, because that is how long from the time she left that she had to make a 911 call. She never made one. The call was made by Alex, who was inside for over 47 minutes before calling 911. So all that's a moot point.
Do you need to try to remove any
My
garments that might be around those potential gunshot wounds?
Yes, you would expose the patient.
Why is that?
Well, because you don't know for sure how many gunshots there are. You check for exit wounds. Some gunshot wounds, some entry wounds are minimal. You wouldn't see them. You know, you could go through a shirt and not see them. So you expose the patient.
Okay. I have Exhibit 4 up here from body cam from a officer that's previously been admitted. Do you recognize who these people are and where this is?
Yes, ma'am.
And is this you?
It is.
So in this case, at some point, was Charles's shirt
He did, yeah.
cut in any
My
way
opinion.
to allow access to those gunshot wounds?
That would be the norm. Is at this point they would be cutting his shirt.
Do you recall from this scene how many gunshot wounds you
Yeah, Mama
observed to the
Clark.
front of Mr. Vallow?
I believe 2.
Now, when you guys first arrived on scene, do you check the pulse? Like, what do you do when you first get there?
Yes.
Yes, this is the prosecution's witness. We'll see how Lori does next. I have a feeling she's going to be implying more should have been done. But again, she left the house when that gun went off, and they didn't call for her 47 minutes. Right. Hi, Charlie. How are you? Guys, we are using the Medicube brightening mask. You leave this on for about an hour. When it starts to turn clear, you turn it off. I've got it pinned below.
Yes, you would check for pulses, carotid pulse, and obvious signs of live breathing, so chest rise and fall, as you are walking up to a patient.
So in this case, for Charles Vallow, did you guys find a pulse?
No, ma'am.
Did you notice him breathing?
No.
Do you do any other assessments before you start compressions?
No.
So if he's not breathing and you don't see that he has a pulse, why begin CPR? Why start compressions?
Because you don't know how long he has not been breathing or not had a pulse. He could have just stopped those things moments before we got there, which would make him a viable candidate, or a viable patient, rather.
And does, again, the fact that you believe CPR had been performed prior to you arriving also play into your decision to
Yes.
see if he's viable?
Yes.
As other officers are doing compressions, what are you doing there?
So I am charting. So I am, in this particular case, I was running the call. So I'm going down a checklist, gathering information, getting, listening to what they're telling me, and having them. I'm directing them throughout the call.
Okay. So at some point, are compressions stopped to assess the patient in other ways?
Yes, after a heart monitor is on.
Okay. And so are compressions able to be performed while someone else is getting the heart monitor ready?
Yes, compressions continue throughout until you stop compressions to check for pulses.
Do you ever want to check a patient who you see have gunshot wounds, such as Mr. Vallow here, to see if there's exit wounds?
Yes, ma'am, immediately. So they would have cut his shirt, taken his shirt off, rolled him,
Thank you, Allison.
checked for
Trigger
exit
warning, guys.
wounds, and then rolled him back and continued compressions.
In this case, are you documenting your observations and others about what you observed when he was rolled?
Yes,
So when he's rolled, you're looking at his back?
back, right, from the back of the head to the back of the feet.
Okay. So he's completely rolled over so that you can see his back.
Yes.
Did you notice anything about Mr. Vallow's back that may have indicated he'd been there for significantly longer than you originally thought?
He did have lividity. So there was modeling, skin modeling and lividity. Once his shirt comes
See?
off, then you could see modeling on the skin, and lividity had begun to form.
And you,
What does that mean? Obviously, that in short, that's something that was there for a long time. You get to see the pools of blood that start to sit there on the body. I'm so glad. She's really good at these questions. I really like this prosecutor a lot.
you tell us what modeling means.
Modeling is sort of a patchy looking skin caused from hypoxia or not enough oxygen getting to the skin. I mean, you can have mottled skin for different reasons, but in this case, it would be from his heart not beating.
Okay. And then you said lividity. What does
Yes,
that
ma'am.
mean?
So lividity is the pooling of blood, and that takes longer, much longer. So the blood will begin to leave the tissues and gravity drain to the lowest part of the body.
So when the blood isn't being circulated by either CPR or the heart, the blood just starts to pool there.
Yes.
I gotta stop it there for a second. We gotta have a little pause between that many times of saying that. Otherwise, TikTok in their safe words and thinking we're not adults and we can't adult on an app, how it goes. Continuing on.
And so you noticed that as well when he was rolled?
Yes.
Did you notice any exit wounds?
I did notice at least one exit wound, yes.
After
But he was
you
shot
looked
twice.
at his back, do you recall, I guess, when in this process you checked his heart monitor, when that was done?
I do not. This all happens simultaneously. You ask what these different people are doing. They're doing all of those things simultaneously. So the patient is exposed, CPR has begun, and the evaluation, the rest of the evaluation is happening. So timeline, it's on the heart monitor, I'm sure, but a lot of it happens simultaneously. That answer the question you asked that again? I'm
I
sorry.
believe so. Do you recall what the heart monitor results were?
Asystole. No electrical rhythm in the heart. Flat line.
Do you ever look at a patient's pupils?
Yes, ma'am, always.
What's that for?
Because if it's just a brain function. If you shine light on pupils, they react. When the brain stops to function, hypoxia sets in. The pupils will dilate and remain fixed, so they won't change. They're non-reactive to light.
What did you see with Mr. Vallow?
They were fixed and non-reactive.
So we heard about the pooling of the blood on Mr. Vallow when you first arrived. As CPR was being done, did you notice any blood being pushed out of his body?
Thank you for the follow.
A little bit more. Again, he is on his back. Exit wound was in his back, but yes, we increased the amount of blood under the patient by doing CPR.
When you first arrived, did you notice any active bleeding?
No, ma'am.
What's the relevance of no active bleeding?
No heartbeat.
For quite a while. She's really making sure everyone understands this. I really like her.
Were you advised of Scott Cowden's information about when he started CPR, hearing the crunch, or feeling, I guess, the crunch of him performing CPR?
Was I advised of it?
Yeah, did he let you know that?
Thank you for the follow.
No, but that would be expected.
And is that expected if CPR hadn't been performed?
No, not adequately. Again, big guy, so that the sternum will, the cartilage holding the sternum to the ribs breaks, it gives way. So, and that actually makes CPR much easier.
In this case, you came in, he wasn't breathing, he was pulseless, his pupils were dilated, the heart
Trigger warning.
monitor said there was no activity, correct? When you looked at his back, you noticed both mottling, which meant that the blood wasn't moving through his body?
Yes, and modeling was on the front as well.
Okay.
So as that blood pools, so it leaves the tissue, that's gonna hasten the modeling part of it. So
Nobody ever said that Lori Vallow Daybell, whatever you want to call her, is the smartest criminal.
You noticed that when the shirt was then cut, and
Yes.
he was exposed,
Yes.
as well as when he was rolled.
yes,
And then you also noticed on the back the lividity of the blood pooling there.
yes.
When you,
No,
I
this
guess,
is the
obtained all of
prosecutor.
that information, did you end life-saving measures?
Yes.
The reason I said that was because they didn't plan ahead. They waited 47 minutes to call 911, and now they're spelling out how they know it. They know that you didn't call 911, they know you didn't do CPR, and this is exactly how we know it. And he's painting that out through her questioning for the jury, and that's exactly what they should be doing, in my opinion.
Who decides to end life-saving measures?
I do, as well as the rest of the crew. So Scott Cowden is also a paramedic, and he concurred. So then we call that in, and we cease life-saving function.
Now the question is she going to take this when Lori gets up to question him and say, because you decided when to stop trying to save his life, you're responsible for it?
Or attempts, rather.
When you cease life-saving measures at a scene where someone's been shot and is now deceased at the scene, do you leave sort of any attached medical devices with him?
Well, as little as possible. So what would have been left on him would have been defibrillator pads, probably EKG electrodes, and probably a CPR puck.
Now, when you arrived on scene or when you were exiting, did you ever notice any male outside that might have been with some police officers?
Oh, a person?
Yeah.
Yes. One person, one male.
And did you notice him when you arrived or when you left?
Well, when I arrived, my job in particular is to kind of get a larger overview of the scene. So I did notice a person
How are you,
talking with
Melissa?
PD.
And
Welcome in.
when you observed this person, did you notice anything that he appeared to be injured in any way?
No,
So no obvious injuries to you?
no,
If you had been asked to treat him, would you have?
of course.
Did you see that same person outside when you left?
Yes.
And when you left, did you observe anything about him again that he appeared to be injured in any way?
No.
Did you ever see a female and a female teenager at the scene?
Yes.
Where did you see them?
They were across the street from the house we were at.
Do you see that person in the courtroom today?
I see the adult, yes.
Can you point her out and let us know what she's wearing?
Dark blazer at the defendant's table. Dark clothes, I'm not sure.
Okay. State will ask the record to reflect the witnesses identified the defendant.
Good job.
Did you overhear her talking or saying anything?
I did overhear her talking with the police officers, or someone said something about not getting invited to a pool party because of the commotion at the house or something. So.
See, another reason why to not represent yourself, if she was an attorney and if I was an attorney too, I would have objected to that as possible hearsay, just to at least try.
Did you have any formal interaction with her?
No.
Lori just said, what?
When you sort of completed and left this scene, looking back and assessing it based upon your training, your experience, what you observed, and what was done to Mr. Vallow at the scene, would you agree that Charles Vallow was dead before you entered the house?
Yes.
Based upon your training, your experience, what you observed, and what was done to Mr. Vallow, would you agree that it was highly unlikely that anyone had performed CPR on Charles Vallow prior to fire arriving?
Yes.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
All right, Cross.
Thank you for the follow, Winnie. Thank you for the follow, PMA. I unpinned what's on my face, but it is in my showcase. If you guys need me to tell you what mask I'm using, just let me know. Lori not shouting, but whisper yelling, saying, what? Is something the prosecutor should be objecting to. She cannot keep doing that.
Captain Keller.
Yes.
Thank you for the follow, Granny.
You were first on the scene?
The police department was first, but yes, we were the first fire unit.
First fire on the scene.
Mhm.
And
Welcome
can you
to the
explain to us
team.
what
Thank you.
staging is exactly? I'm not really sure.
Sure. Staging, when there's some violent incident, the fire department, the firefighters don't have protective equipment for that sort of a scene. So we will go to a place where close to whatever the dispatched address is, that we would be a place of safety, but close, so that as soon as the scene is made safe by the police department, then we would enter into the scene.
So that would be like a couple houses away, or?
Could be a couple
Really?
houses, could be behind cover. In this case, it was gunshot was the call. So you want to
Yes.
make sure that you are a little ways away, you know.
Yes, Winnie. She's also known her last trial. She was under as Lori Vallow. She's been called Lori Vallow, Lori Daybell because she has been both names. Also known as the Doomsday Mom. That's her. That was her first trial for her kids and her current husband's wife. She has one more trial after this one for conspiring to unalive her niece's former husband. It's a lot.
Okay.
In case there was more gunshots.
Right. So you parked somewhere on the street, but a couple houses down from the house?
She's been a busy
correct?
lady.
Yes.
Okay. And then part of that staging is you stay there until you get the all clear?
Yes, until the police department says that it's safe to enter the scene.
Okay. And you were wearing body cam that day?
No, we don't wear body
Oh,
cams.
you don't wear body cam? Okay. You were just that was a picture from you on the body cam?
On the one
On
of the
someone
police
else's
officers.
body cam?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Instead, her children were.
Do you use any instruments to obtain current body temperature? Do you guys have an instrument for that?
No.
No? Would that help you give a more approximate time of calling a time of death?
It wouldn't help me. I'm not trained to do that. So we don't have that. It's not within our scope of practice to determine that.
It's not part of paramedics training?
No.
Okay. You explained the modeling being patchy looking skin
Yes.
because of no oxygen to the skin. Is that correct?
Decreased, yes.
And so will that continue to increase? I don't really understand. Would you say modeling is complete or in progress? How does that work?
I would say in progress as less and less tissue had oxygenation, I would say it continues to model.
So would you say it was in early progress or late progress? How would you estimate that?
I could not say early or late, just modeling.
That modeling was present
Yes,
at
yes.
that point. So how long would it take for modeling to become present? That's kind of my question.
I don't know.
He said there's no asked and
So it could be
answered.
like
different for different people, I
People.
suppose.
So it could be a minute, 5 minutes?
Hold on. Rephrase the question. I'll allow it, but make sure you let him answer before you ask your next question.
Okay. So it could be just a few minutes, possibly?
Possibly. I don't know.
Okay.
Thank you for
And
the
then
follow-up.
lividity you explained as a pooling of blood. The blood leaves the tissues and goes to the bottom. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. And you saw that as well?
yes.
And in your estimation, would that have happened soon? Well, that's not a good question. In your estimation, that had begun?
Yes.
And was it advancing how far?
He had lividity on the back of his torso,
So does
backs of his arms.
lividity start immediately after the heart stops? Is that what you were saying?
Mary says, hi, just got in. Who is that? A lawyer or is that the Lori girl? Yep, that is Lori Daybell. She's defending herself, and this is her witness.
I suppose it does.
Okay. And if you were on any kind of medication, would that affect that as well?
Well, the state's witness, but her turn to
think so.
ask. Am I lagging for anybody else? I've got a green light. It's try leaving and coming back in. Make sure you hit the follow first, otherwise you might lose your way back in. By the way, guys, follow me on the Michelle's Criminal Musings, not the Michelle N. That's just my backup. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Like when someone says lag, I hit pause because I've got to make sure. Why would she defend herself? In my opinion, she already has been found guilty of unaliving her 2 children and conspiring for Tammy Daybell, Chad's wife. She, in my opinion, she's got nothing left to lose, and she still feels that her and Chad are going to be exonerated of all charges. Gotta remember, her future does not hold her in a jail cell. Those silver bracelets do not stay on her wrist. In her mind, in her delusions. If you guys are not familiar with this case, there's tabs above my videos. There's one for Lori Vallow Daybell that has all my coverage on it if you need to catch up. And thank you for the follows.
And what time of death did you document? You were making the doc.
Mary, the opening statements, I uploaded it to my YouTube yesterday. I still have one more I'm uploading from yesterday. That was the rest of the coverage from yesterday, the questioning for the first witnesses. But I did put it on my YouTube. It's the same name here, Michelle's Criminal Musings. The link is in my bio. Michelle's Criminal Musings. Link in bio.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And
Thank
what
you for
time
the
of death
follows.
did you document?
I did not put time of death, but I put a time of treatment being ceased, and I don't recall what that time was. It's on that report.
And you had stated that you were listening to dispatch on the radio. Is that correct?
Thank you for the
Yes.
follow.
So were you listening to the actual 911 operator speaking?
No, whoever is calling, if you call on the phone to a 911 operator, they would give that information to a dispatcher who would then dispatch a call with pertinent information.
Okay, so you were getting kind of updates as it went along?
No, you get the initial call, and then if it were pertinent for us, like the scene is secure,
I agree, Kate.
says the scene is secure, go in, then we would get that. PD
you
would
for the
then
follow, Penny.
call dispatch, and dispatch would then call us.
Okay, so were you aware at all that they had asked him to come outside?
Thank you
No.
for the follow, Melanie.
Okay. You just saw that he was outside, but you didn't know that the 911 operator had told him to come outside. Is that correct?
I did not know who he was or how he was involved in it when
Okay.
we arrived.
So on those dispatch updates, it wasn't saying like shooter is in-house or shooter is outside or anything like that? Okay.
You're right.
That wouldn't be,
Not to us.
That's what I'm saying.
That might be to the police department,
I see it too.
but that's not something we would hear.
We got 11
Okay.
minutes left on the subwave, guys. We have a goal we're trying to get to. If you want to help
in
out.
this case, Captain Keller, do you know for a fact that CPR had not been given?
I do not know for a fact.
And do you know for a fact that
I heard an
CPR had
objection.
been given?
I know for a fact that we gave CPR.
Prior to your coming in?
He can't know what he wasn't there to see.
No further questions?
All right, redirect.
Why would you ask him if he wasn't even there? How is he going to know that?
Which do you see first, modeling or lividity?
It says it right down there, Stacy.
When the heart stops and the blood is no longer pumping.
Modeling.
Okay.
I would expect to see modeling first.
Also known as Lori
And
Vallow.
you told us, I think on direct, that lividity is something that you see much later.
Thank you for subscribing.
Yes.
I appreciate
I would
you.
expect that, yes.
Have you treated patients before within a few minutes of their heart stopping?
Yes.
Do you see lividity in those people?
No.
Do you see modeling in those people?
No.
She's good.
You see skin conditions change in those people, gray or cooling, moist, moisture, but not modeling or lividity.
Otherwise known as Doomsday Mom as well.
So you're not here to tell us how long it takes for those to form.
I agree,
Right.
Kate.
I don't know.
All you can tell us is that it's something that you see in patients who are deceased.
Yes.
Thank you for the follow, Tammy.
and have been deceased long enough, whatever time period that is, for that to happen.
Right, it is an indication of the patient no longer being a viable patient.
Thank you for the follow, Kelly.
And that was one of the things that you noted and used in determining to end any life-saving measures.
Yes,
Now, is the only way to know if CPR has been given to be there with the person watching them?
no.
What else can tell you that CPR was given to a patient?
Well, PD on scene arriving would witness, the best way would be witness CPR.
She's just checking all the
That's
boxes.
the best way. Is there any other ways?
Well, yes. Again, you would have an indentation in the chest. The sternum would likely be have been cracked loose from the rib cage, and there would be, in the case of trauma, increased bleeding. You do CPR or
Trigger warning
CCR
again, guys.
sometimes when there's not trauma, cardiac.
In this case,
I'm
were
not sure you
other
mean Stacy.
indicators the blood that was pooling only at the neck and not spread out further?
Yes.
The lack of pooling underneath the victim?
Yes, and the mechanical action of doing compressions with a gunshot wound right there would have spread blood in that area as well. It wouldn't just have gone where gravity is.
I can give you a brief, because we're watching this live. This is the state of Arizona versus Lori Daybell, otherwise known as Lori Vallow. She was recently found guilty of unaliving her 2 children and conspiring to unalive her husband's wife. She is now on trial for conspiring to unalive her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. She has one more trial after this one for conspiring to unalive her niece's former husband. I have tabs above my videos. There's one that has Lori Vallow Daybell on it. You can get all caught up there. If you missed yesterday's, that's on my YouTube.
So where you saw is where
Link
you
in
saw the
bio.
blood pooling was where gravity, a low spot.
That was my interpretation of it, yes.
Blood across his chest.
No.
You're welcome.
Would
Don't you show that.
ongoing CPR movement of the blood through the body have also
Give me
limited
palpitations.
the modeling you may have seen?
Perhaps.
Ultimately, is it your opinion that it is unlikely that CPR was given to this patient prior to fire arriving?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
Well done. What do you guys
Are
think?
there any juror questions? I see at least one coming down. Please pass those down. Put on the white noise first.
In case you guys are unaware, what he just said, I see some jury questions coming down. In the state of Arizona, after a witness is done being questioned, if the jury has a question about anything they heard, they could pass down the question forward to get it to the judge. They then go on to their headphones, and it's like a sidebar there, a safe distance away from Miss Daybell. She is very, very good. It's night and day. She outshines Lori 9-1. She met her match. I think she met her. Did Lori Daybell finally meet her match? Pat, you don't have to yell when you're talking in here. When you type in all caps, that's what it means. And just so you know, I feel the same damn way you do about the word unaliving. Unfortunately, if you're on here a lot, you hear it because TikTok makes us say unaliving instead of the K word or the M word or many of the other words because they seem to miscommunicate that we're adults. I'm sure they have a suggestion box. You can let them know. But the next time you want to come and try to you want to come and try to yell at somebody, maybe do a little background digging first. This is day 2 of the trial. Of all the things to try to, is that the hill you want to go on, really? On that? There's so many other things you could pick that are so much more better. Yeah, we need that one song that Selena Gomez sings in, Calm Down. I like that song. Yeah, I don't know who you think you're going to yell at, but you're not going to yell at me in my chat. I'm not the one. Not going to happen. Yeah, someone, yes, please give Pat a Snickers. It's quiet because they're in sidebar for the jury question. The jury has a question in Arizona. They can ask it after the witness. They take it from there. What might be, Tina? Who did? Kate? We didn't scold you for pew pew. Oh, someone said they didn't like it. Well, I mean, tell TikTok to quit trying to censor us, and then we don't have to say those annoying words anymore. I hate it as just as much, but I'm not going to sit there and yell at somebody who has to say it. It's not by a choice thing. She did have a lawyer. She wanted to defend herself. She had to go through a whole bunch of stuff to first seem that she was fit to stand on trial, then fit to represent herself. It's all right. We all have those hangry days, right? I might still have some Snickers from Halloween. We all have those days. Don't worry though. Put on a face mask and everybody will calm down. You're good. It is. And you know what? I think that's because Laura's a little crazy, but that's just my opinion. And in case you guys want to know which mask this is, well, they're conversing and we can't hear it. I gotta fill the empty noise. This is Medicube's brightening mask. It's in my showcase. I love face masks. I love all these skincare products. I don't know about y'all, but I'm fighting the war against wrinkles, and I'm losing that battle, and it's never going to end. I'm constantly, ask everybody in here, I'm constantly fighting this war. Thank you for the follow, Ashley. Now this mask, once it goes completely transparent, that's when you're done. You can be on for 1 to 3 hours. Where are we at? We're almost there. From completely white to completely see-through. That's how you know all the stuff has been absorbed into your skin. Yes, they removed the sound for that. There's only one camera room in this courtroom, and it's the courtroom's camera. Oh, Stacy, the best thing I could do for you to get all that stuff together right now is to go to my tab on my profile that has Lori Vallow Daybell on it, and you can see all the things she's done. Her last trial was for unaliving her 2 children and conspiring to unalive her current husband's wife, who her current husband was also found guilty of with the 2 children and his own wife. He's on death row for it now. We're just a few minutes behind, that's all. Which you bring up a really good point.
How fast the heart pumps
access to administer medications to aid the heart and functioning, i.e. ephedrine.
Thank you for reminding me
If
that we had
no,
paused
why
it a couple
not?
times.
It's not indicated for trauma. It doesn't, if there's no blood to pump or the heart has stopped pumping, increasing how fast the heart pumps with ephedrine would not.
Yes, blessed.
Would do nothing.
Thank you, Nikki.
So in trauma, it is not indicated.
Was ACLS protocol followed?
Yes.
Was there a physician patched in?
No, there's no patch required for cessation of treatment. It is part of our
I don't like this
part of our
question.
ability and part of our training to determine non-viability.
By them asking that question, that's going to, in my opinion, make Lori feel like, oh, wait, there's somewhere to go with this. I'm going to hold on to that. I don't like that they asked that question. Keep in mind, on the jury, we have 13 men and 3 women.
Are fire department personnel allowed to call a patient's death?
Yes. However, time of death is a different thing if that's what you're asking. In other words, we are allowed to stop attempting to do life-saving treatment if it's merely a recovery. So does that answer?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have if the defense, first of all, let me check. Are there any other juror questions for this witness? I don't see any. The defense can follow up based on those questions.
Again, if you guys missed it, the questions that were just being asked were the ones written down by the jury in the state of Arizona. They can ask questions after each witness. And if they have them, they give them to them. And he was reading out their questions, and they were directly asking him the questions that they wanted to ask. And now Lori, as her own lawyer as the defense, can follow up with anything he said from their questions.
If you want.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, how about the state?
Nope.
Just a couple. Sir, when would you use ephedrine?
Well, if you had just asystole, but it was a cardiac-based code. If the heart had stopped due to some disease state, electric shock, for instance, you would use epi. Are you saying epinephrine is what you're saying? Right?
When you're looking at whether or not to push drugs to try to get the heart to restart, you're looking at the type of trauma that caused the heart to stop.
And how long it's been since the heart stopped.
She's good.
So in a place where you said there is trauma, meaning like a gunshot wound?
Like a hole in the vessel, yes.
So that is treated differently than if someone has a heart attack and
Yes.
Thank you for the follow,
you were
Sabrina.
asked about.
These are all algorithms, protocols that are given for us to operate on scenes under medical control to whoever asked about the patch.
What is then the ACLS protocol?
Advanced cardiac life support. And it's just, again, it's a flow chart. Are there obvious signs of death? Yes. Stop CPR.
So here, you followed that protocol and stopped CPR.
Yes, ma'am. Cease.
In short, what we're hearing him say is he has been dead for quite some time. The fact that she follows up with these extra questions to get him to say more is good, because the jury question that was submitted had me nervous.
CR technically, but yes.
asked about contacting a physician, a patch or something for a cessation of treatment.
Right.
Are there times where you do patch in with a physician?
Sure. You would patch en route, not for a code. You would patch en route and give a doctor, or actually it would be a nurse answering the phone, but you would let them know what you have and what treatment you have given and what treatment you are going to give en route to their facility to continue care.
She really is.
We are primarily to stabilize and turn over the patient, making it more viable
Yes,
for
Marsh.
rescue.
So when you terminate treatment because a patient is not viable, you cannot revive them, you don't need to talk to a doctor about that.
No, you need to call in that you did it. So there would have been a patch after that, but you don't have to call in to cease treatment.
So you don't need a blessing by a doctor to stop life-saving treatment.
Well, no, we have the blessing through our certifications and through our training. So we are operating under a doctor's license at any time we are operating. So that doctor or this group of doctors usually understands our training level and agrees to trains us to make that decision, yes.
And so ultimately, as a paramedic, you have the authority to use that protocol to determine when you are no longer able to revive or save the life of a patient.
Cease life-saving functions, yes.
And that's what you did here.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
All right, you can step down. We're going to take our lunch recess. I'll remind the jury of the admonition. We will resume at 1:30 p.m.
All rise for the jury.
Now, one benefit we have with me pausing so long, because when you're playing something, you have to pause it. We get to zip ahead, though it's not going to be caught up. We're closer.